All right, good afternoon. Welcome back to Three Swords Gaming. So I've been away for a hot minute, quite a long time, in fact. And honestly, life circumstances have forced a significant change where streaming and content creation are going to go down quite a bit. But Guild Wars 2 did release some new story, and I wanted to go ahead and capture a quick playthrough on that. It's not going to take long because honestly, there's not a lot of story there. It's starting to look like mini expansions are pretty mini in scope. That's a separate conversation. Maybe we can have some other time. Maybe we won't. Depends on my schedule. But for right now, let's go ahead and get the next portion of our story started. So you may recall we did the whole Secrets of the Obscure thing. Um, we dealt with the Kryptis threat. Sure, Peitha, I missed you. Yeah.
Peitha.
So we remember Peitha is Kryptis, right?
Abark's atrocities only escalate. Your gravitas is necessary. I'll meet you at the tower, but don't rush. Isgarin delights in my company.
I'd better hurry.
Yeah, so we're not going to hurry. We're going to take a moment to kind of address where we're at. So, we did the whole Secrets of the Obscure thing, right? Kryptis were attacking Kryta. We looked into it, got sucked in with got sucked into Nayos, the realm of the demons in the mist, and ultimately allied ourselves with the Astral Ward in order to combat that threat. We met Isgarin. We reunited with Zoja, so on and so forth. So we dealt with the immediate threat, but the threat of the Kryptis still remains. Um, the main Kryptis continues to be active, continues to be a threat. Eparch is his name, so that's still something that we're going to have to deal with. And this other Kryptis, Peitha, kind of allies herself with us and suggests that there's like a Kryptis insurgency within the demon realm and the mists, and that we can ally ourselves with them to ultimately destroy Eparch. Um, a large portion of the player base believes that Peitha, well, a large portion of the player base has some kind of bizarre crush on Peitha, but a large portion also believes that she's not to be trusted and that this is leading somewhere weird. It's kind of hard to tell from my stance because the usual indicators that ArenaNet is giving us like a false friend that we're going to be betrayed kind of aren't there in my opinion. And generally they're not capable of a ton of subtlety, but maybe they're just overachieving here. Um, but even if that turns out to be the case, it also won't be surprising. So I don't know that there's a shock in store for us. It kind of is what it is. So let's unite with Peitha. Now, of course, the Astral Ward have been against the Kryptis for quite a long time, centuries, in fact. So for her and Isgarin, the founder of the Astral Ward, to be hanging out is kind of the reason for our rush,
Hey,
in
how's
theory.
the Astral Ward?
Recovering. Still got the odd Kryptis or two coming in from Nayos. Nothing we can't solve with a hammer to the skull.
That's good to hear. These past few months, I've been recovering in my own way. It's still a shock, knowing what I do.
Isgarin and Peitha are waiting for you. Follow me. They're getting along, at least.
Oh? Consider me curious. And anxious.
So when the commander says knowing what I do, the commander's referring to the fact that they now carry the title Wayfinder associated with the Astral Ward, and then that carries its own responsibilities, and it's a whole thing, I guess. So they've kind of tried to, because the commander no longer is the commander pact against the dragons. That's all done, right? So they've kind of given the commander a new role. I kind of hope it doesn't last past this mini expansion, but we'll see. It's hard to say.
They're here.
Good. Her presence is not kind to one's sense of inner calm.
Darling of you, Garen.
So, this is what you meant by getting along.
Peitha informs us that the situation in Nayos is escalating. I didn't intend to join that fight, but better to stop a growing threat than ignore it. I cannot spare the ward yet, but we should take action.
We've been seeing a spike in rift attacks here too. 4 in the Shiver Peaks yesterday, 1 in Kryptis this morning.
At last our thoughts are in unison. Any help we receive, I will use. I worry about overwhelming the Kryptis with visitors too quickly. But the Wayfinder, maybe. And a few strong-stomached allies. We've been pushed to the outer reaches of Nayos, into Norris's path.
The beast that attacked the spire?
It's weaker now, thanks to your efforts. But it has risen the stakes. It consumes. We've a small outpost right on the edge of the abyss. Norris nor Epoch have been able to see it through the fog. The Wayfinder joins me first. We acclimate the Kryptis. And then we bring more.
She loves to assume my benevolence.
Doesn't sound like we have much time to prepare.
We do not. Hopefully we can call on the wizard's aid soon as well.
We've incursions to quell in Tyria before I can send any meaningful numbers. But I can be convinced. Wayfinder, can we speak for a moment, just you and I?
Don't let me ruffle your sumptuous garb, Isgaren. Talk. I'll be near.
If you go with her, I might not be able to help you. You'll be on your own. There are many terrors in the demon realm. It's a very different world than ours. Maban knew more than I.
I made Peitha a promise, and I plan on keeping it.
Then you've already chosen.
I have. This is about Tyria. We barely escaped the dragon cycle. We don't need another oppressor.
I'll light a portal if that's what you want. But before we return to within earshot of others, there's one other piece of intel that requires discretion. Peitha has secured our missing astral ward in Nayos. Those who were lost when you first traveled to their realm of rot.
You mean Arena? Frode's daughter? Does he know?
She lives, according to Peitha. I've not permitted Frode to join them until we've established an operational Mist's Gate. Keep them safe. And if you've any other questions, now is the time.
So that did come as a tremendous surprise to me, the revelation that Arena and others are safe. I had worked 100% off the assumption that Arena was dead, and honestly, I think that would be probably the more appropriate assumption, or the more appropriate, honestly, course of the story. But that's fine. We can enjoy the fact that Arena is apparently alive, and we'll get to examine more of that as we go forward. So what Peitha is proposing here is like an asymmetric campaign to overthrow Eparch. And the concern for me entering this story, and we'll kind of see it play out, at least during this first portion of this story, and then, we got 2 more releases yet to go, is that it's not going to manifest that way. Like, it's going to be very kind of a blunt tool, way too straightforward. We're going to charge forward, which is not what an asymmetric campaign does. But, they've neither allowed themselves the time nor the narrative space to be able to do more than that, and we'll see that as we go forward. Yeah, so will there be more ward coming is essentially what we're asking here.
You seem hesitant to send aid.
Subtle, am I? Until I see our dear Peitha in action, I'm still unsure if this whole ordeal will be worth it. I'm not certain the ward would want to go either. They joined to protect Tyria, not crawl through the depths of Nayos. But some are admittedly eager for Kryptis blood. They lost their friends, their allies, and they trust you. Peitha? Perhaps not. They linger on the line of curiosity and fear, as do I. But they trust their wayfinder. I will be allowing volunteers to cross through as soon as we establish a gateway between here and Peitha's outpost. Just do keep the ward in Nayos secure while we connect those threads.
I'll do my part.
So truthfully, is Garen and others' skepticism of Peitha, regardless of whether Renanet's painting her as a betrayer or not, is within the scope of the story, is completely appropriate, right? Speaking of which, do you trust Peitha, Isgaren?
Do I trust Peitha? The better question is, do you?
Way to not answer the question.
I do.
With an ounce of hesitance, I hope. She lingered in your mind for so long. Do you know the detriment she could have inflicted?
And yet she didn't. If anything, she saved me multiple times. Does that not demonstrate the severity of the situation?
I suppose it does. Be relentless if you need to be. It would not be a kind place to die in.
Be relentless is an interesting phrase. So there's a number of phrases that appear to be used incorrectly in the dialogue for this release, and I'm not sure why that is. But the be relentless thing appears to be a reference to like what are they called? The gray winged underwater creatures. Now I can't remember what they're called. But they always have a thing about relentless. And it would make sense. They exist within the ward as well, so it would make sense for Isgaren to have picked up some of that terminology. Man, what are they called? Is there one around here that we can like look at? Doesn't look like it. Well, it's really not that important. Let's move forward, see what's going on here.
Are we ready to depart, then?
I'm with you, Peitha.
My strength is returning, but slowly. This will take a few moments.
While you two prepare, Wayfinder, with me?
Sure. What's up, Fred?
Someone would like to speak with you. She might be a little...
She went through with it?
She has. A few weeks back. She's been taking some time to herself, mostly. Adjusting.
How is she taking it?
Everything is a bit fuzzy. Memories of the ward came back. She knows your name. It might take her a moment to connect it to a face.
Okay. I'm ready to see her.
So clearly we're referring to Zoja, right? It's interesting that Zoja going through with the process, like the ascension process or whatever it is. It's not called ascension, but the process of fully becoming ward. That takes place outside of the story or off camera, essentially. In other words, implying that during the 3 months between Secrets of the Obscure's initial release and this release, that it happened during that time, and thus we don't see it. It does, however, paint the commander as a little clueless, which is not a good feeling.
Zoja, you have a visitor.
Ear deep in documentation about the obscure. Laban's notes are extensive.
Hey, Zoja.
The Wayfinder.
Yes. Yes, of course. Hello.
I'll give you two a moment. See me when you're ready.
I'm sorry. Little overwhelmed. I didn't realize you were coming today.
Peitha and I are about to head into Nayos.
Peitha? Peitha? Oh! The giant Kryptis lady. I like her, I think. Isgaren finds her annoying. Wait, you're going with her?
Yeah, I am. Pretty nervous about it, to be honest.
Okay. Be safe. I've been a few times helping seal rifts. It's something.
I will. Thanks, Zoja.
Sorry. This must be a bit awkward for you. I am trying so hard to
Hey, don't worry about it. One step at a time, right?
Yeah. Dagda keeps telling me that too. Be safe, Commander. No, Wayfinder. Are you a commander?
I was.
So I mentioned this a couple times during the playthrough of Secrets of the Obscure, and I think it's evident again here that the voice actor for Zoja, what's her name, Felicia Day, really is quite skilled. I think she does a good job again here. Little nuances are captured pretty well in the way Zoja communicates, and so I like that. It is refreshing to have not that voice actors are bad, but she is very good.
I think she seems like she's doing well. I wish she. I'm just glad she found her home. That was harder than I thought it would be.
I know it hurts, but keep your bond close. She'll see through the fog if you shine that light bright enough.
Are you ready? Wayfinder?
Warden, Curator! Kryptis in the courtyard! A rift is open!
Within the bounds of the Wizard's Tower? With the speed of a storm, go!
I really like Isgaren's urgency when it's literally right here. Like the rift is right here, Isgaren. We don't have to like freak out. We just need to, we just need to go. Like it's all right. Good dialogue, out of place. So I will say, I don't.
Time to do some real damage.
I think for most players at this point, when this release comes out, right, a few weeks back, because it took me some time to get my schedule to the point where I could actually do this on video. So when this release came out, by that point in time, your average player had done roughly 1.5 million riffs, and are probably quite tired of them. And in general, I think ArenaNet grossly overestimated. And I said this right from the beginning. During the initial Secrets of the Obscure stuff, I said several times, like, that riffs are borderline non-content, and, ArenaNet shouldn't be putting too many of their eggs in that basket, which they have. They put a ton of eggs in that basket. It's supposed to be, like, the primary content for Secrets of the Obscure stuff. Players have done 1 million by this point in time and don't want new releases to be heavily dependent on the Rift thing.
This rift is... it's stronger than even I'm familiar.
Try sealing it with the heart, Wayfinder.
Way ahead of you.
So we missed a little bit of Peitha's dialogue there because it was relatively quiet compared to everything else going on. But those were followers of Eparch, so we're now making a distinction in the Kryptis. And this rift is different. We've never had... we had Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 rifts, and now with this release we have convergences. But we never really had dialogue around the idea that rifts could be, in some way, stronger or weaker.
It's not working.
Then we try from the other side. Peitha, you lead, we will follow.
Take a breath of that lush Tyrian air and go.
All right. Do we want to take a moment to kind of, entertain the logic here of there's a room with 100 wolves. We need to shut the door so the wolves don't get into our room. We can't shut it from one side. Let's go into the room with 100 wolves and shut the door. Is this actually, like, the best decision? Really interesting loading screen, by the way.
Is this place Nayos?
Yes. Human female voice actor overwhelmed by the moment. Wait, get out of the chair and get on the sky scale. So we see this giant ominous rift over here, right? This is cool from an aesthetic point of view. Like, very cool entry point for us to come into Nayos. And I am so grateful that Nayos did not turn out to be like just a giant version of that cathedral sort of space that we were in when we previously entered Nayos. I am glad to see that there's a world of Nayos.
Welcome back to Nayos, Wayfinder.
It looks so different.
Acclimate yourselves. This isn't Eparch's territory, but we're exposed.
No time. It looks like the welcoming committee is right on schedule. Get ready, everyone.
I haven't seen this realm of existence in...
Fight, Iskaran. Focus.
I intend to.
The Heart of the Obscure should allow you to extract demonic essence from the Kryptis you slay. The rifts will only
Feel the
respond to a
fury.
particular flavor of magic, so we'll need to gather enough to complete the spell.
I'm on it.
Your kind, lashing out against you. Is this what millennia of appetence have distilled you to?
You see it now.
Time to do some real damage.
We need to take more of them down, and the bigger the Kryptis, the more the essence. Though, it seems that the essence degrades pretty fast. Bring it back to me as quickly as possible. But be
Feel
careful.
the fury.
While you carry it,
Wither.
or it will
They'll have to
drain
hit
your
much
life force.
harder.
Don't push yourself too hard.
Trying my best.
Yes. I'd like to keep the Wayfinder in one piece.
So, Isgaren's dialogue here is kind of interesting, where he, I would love to know the end of the sentence. I haven't seen this place in millennia?
They'll have to hit much
Since, is there a specific event where he last saw this place? That would be really fun from, a lore point of view, to kind of find out more about what's going on there, and the history behind Isgaren previously seeing this place. Thus far, I'm not aware of any point in this release where we actually get that, but we got lots of time, right? 2 more releases after this one, so I'm going to some degree to kind of try and hold off on being hypercritical on some parts of the story, because they have some time to clean it up, right?
Keep the big one off me, and I'll finish the spell.
Can you
The big
handle
one.
this
What?
alone?
Oh no!
Yeah.
We're with you. We're right here. Feel the fury.
So I do quite like this enemy. This is, however, the at least in this release, the only time that we see this model used. So, whoops. So I would be curious, kind of, to kind of find out more about the nature of this foe, right? That would be. Oh no, I'm in a bit of a spot.
We heal as one.
That would be kind of fun to kind of get some more about what is this thing? SotO?
Wither.
Is it just me, or am I amazing?
So they added collections, unrelated to the story. They added collections for various relics. Kind of an interesting thing. I think more than anything, whereas the collections themselves are not that interesting to me, it's nice to be able to track what relics are out there. So to kind of come back to that, if we come back again, take a look, like Relic of Voss and Peitha, Mabon. Oh, Peitha's got one. Look at that. After shadow stepping or using a deception skill, so very thief specific, right? Although I think there's another class that has shadow stepping to some degree, I think. But yeah, look at all that. Fun. Okay, Soja, you alright after that whole experience with the thing?
All right, that should do it. Quickly, everyone, back through that rift before it collapses on us.
The Wayfinder and I will venture farther into the realm. Follow. We'll make toward refuge.
Wayfinder, keep your eyes up and your mind sharp as obsidian. Our paths part for now.
Be safe.
Why sharp is obsidian? It's an interesting choice. I mean, admittedly, obsidian can be sharp, but, has this Garen never seen, steel? Glass? Paper cuts?
Take a deep breath. Our air is heavy, but you can breathe it. You have before. We're not far from camp. Rest a moment. We've been met with excitement after excitement. Even I am tired.
Thanks.
Take it in. Then we'll start moving. Don't rush yourself.
So another opportunity to kind of look around at Nayos. I'm not sure why they give us this weird pause here, but it gives me an opportunity to talk. We can kind of come up a little bit. So this is... Oh, apparently we can't come up. This is Nayos, right? And this is largely what this map, at least what we've seen of it thus far, looks like. Pretty effective, in my opinion, use of assets that they have used before, but they don't feel reused here, right? So, like Dragonfall, for example, has giant trees like this, but it doesn't feel reminiscent of Dragonfall, at least not to me. We see kind of an alteration to assets that we would have seen out of like the Orion maps, um, with like the weird shells and stuff. But now they're modified with like a fleshy surface, and they kind of have like a throbbing to them. It's filthy, disgusting. So it feels like a place unlike anywhere else in the Guild Wars 2 world. And that I like. Now, whether or not it's aesthetically pleasing with the grays and violets, plenty of room for personal opinion there, but I dig it. All right, Nayos is unlike anything in Tyria. I agree. I was just talking about that actually. It's almost as if Peitha was listening in. Take the time you need to adapt to your surroundings. Let me know when you're ready to go. I'm good to go. G2G, Peitha.
Serene.
What did you expect? I am curious.
More blood, I think. Less of this.
Your shock is not too surprising. Your first impressions of my world were birthed in the temple of Febe. That cursed place.
Sarah said that Phoebe was killed?
Yes, he was my teacher, a guide. He felt the things about Epoch that I do now. I couldn't save him then. Had Febe not fallen, maybe we'd have put Epoch down sooner.
I've had those thoughts. They're not worth it. You're fighting back against Epoch now.
Ramses should be on
That's
guard
what we
right
need to
now.
focus on.
Quickly.
I actually appreciate that Peitha overtalks the commander's unnecessary encouragement.
Traitorous snake you are, little Peitha.
Crawl back and kiss the fangs of your king.
One of the things that I like throughout the story, it happens a number of times in what is a fairly short release, maybe even very short release, is there are foes that recognize Peitha and make like personal threats towards her versus, simply threats that one might make towards an adversary. They make threats related to the fact that, she has a role within their society. And I like that given the fact that we've already been told she has a role within their society. So
Starting to see the bigger
it should be
picture.
personal.
We must find Arena and the others.
So she is alive.
And thriving, last I saw her. We located her and her fierce entourage of Astral Ward not long ago. I'm still in awe as to how they survived at all. But if Epoch has us sniffed out...
Let's keep moving.
So a number of players have noted that Peitha has a voice very reminiscent of Arene. Very slow, almost overly deliberate, some sort of post-processing. I've seen some players actually speculate if it's the same voice actor or not, although I don't believe it is. But it is very much, and it has that same effect, where like maybe the first time you experience it, you're like, oh, it feels ominous, or it feels like it has gravitas, which is the correct usage of that word, by the way, Peitha. But after a while, it just becomes like
About time.
trouble. It feels laborious.
Excitement? Maybe I'm confusing. Yeah. Were you back in Tyria again?
And I brought a friend.
The Pact Commander. Interesting choice.
Hi, Arena.
It's good to see you alive. What happened in Gandharan?
Surprise to us both. Now, eyes on the threat.
I'm intrigued to see when they reunite Arena with Frode, how they're going to handle that. It'll be an interesting thing. Quick note on Ramses here as the enemy approaches. So Peitha, like our interaction with her is like, she's humanoid in appearance. She possesses humanoid characteristics. And thus, like our interactions are like, it's very easy to swallow that we have, conversations, or that those interactions are what one humanoid would have with another. It's very different with Ramses and some of the other Kryptis. We don't see very many other Kryptis that are also so distinctively
Some real damage.
humanoid as Peitha is. Although there will be at least one other that we'll see here towards the end of this release, whose name shall be delivered soon if it hasn't been already. But Ramses is a really good example. Where'd Ramses go? Of a Kryptis where our interactions are quite weird because they're very personal in nature, the way we might interact with an Asura or a Norn or something. But there's nothing humanoid about aside from two arms. There's really and a what appears to be some sort of vertebrae. There's nothing humanoid about Ramses. So it's very bizarre. It feels much different to have interactions with Ramses than it does, and some of the other Kryptis, than it does with Peitha. Which is interesting. I'm not opposed to that at all. In fact, on the contrary, you look at like the original Star Trek, right, which is a great series, groundbreaking at its time. But of course, all the aliens were, with a few exceptions, were decidedly humanoid, right? Because it's the easiest way to handle those interactions between humans and whatever else is out there. But it's a very fun kind of thought exercise to question what interactions look like when something is so drastically different from us. Not that Guild Wars 2 really addresses that with the Kryptis or anything, and we don't get any sort of meaningful examination of it. But it at least occurred to me when I encountered Ramses, that this is not something, like bridging that gap would be significantly different than with Peitha, right?
Feel the fury.
Just as if we encounter situations where we have meaningful dialogue with Kryptis, like the Avatar of Gluttony or the Corrupted over here, that is also going to be interesting for the same reasons.
They'll have to hit much harder.
Looks like the last of them.
What happened?
How do you know, Commander?
Was she here?
Only scouts from what we can tell. But I'm sure their eventual absence will be noticed.
The barrier will keep our location shielded. For now. We can't breach the interior. But they're also barred from us. Wayfinder, you've met Arena.
They were secretly snooping through my camp.
And Ramses. Well, Ramses speaks for himself.
Curious, the way you smell.
And who is this Hator?
Oh, what would be the appropriate Tyrian familial connection? My cousin.
And one of Epoch's prized suckers.
A bit pissy that you offed her mate based on how many she sent. Managed to take down most of them before you got back.
Saris, I assume?
We've no shortage of family drama. Now that Hator knows of this place, we better stop her from sharing the news.
I'll check on the Astral Ward and others.
So a number of players have made the observation. It's a valid observation that we immediately we get this thing where Hator, who's another relatively humanoid, not so different in appearance from Peitha, a bit different, slightly less pleasing in appearance, but very similar. That Hator is Peitha's cousin and was the mate to Peitha's brother, which meant that her mate was her cousin, and that's bizarre, which it is bizarre. And I think where internet meant to go with that is the royal families of Europe, back in the 1800s and so forth, where that was royalty. In order for royalty to stay with royalty, all the families intermarried, and eventually became kind of weird and gross.
About Arena, but disappointed he can't be here. I didn't have the chance to ask him.
A huntress would rather cope with her progenitor on her own. When Isgarin's little gate is open, they will meet. When her contingent first arrived with you, thank whatever dubious entity you pray to, that they found a place to hide. They managed to survive, while Kryptis' eyes were pointed at Tyria. Only a few lives were lost to the hostility of our world.
I'm glad you found them before things started escalating.
And so am I. Ramses has remained at Arena's side, helping the Tyrians acclimate. I think they've taken to our realm of barbarity. Arena is a force of nature, and I'm sure she'd be fine on her own. Now, rest. Adjust. The ward has crops that are at least tolerable for your consumption.
Thanks, Peitha. That's fine of you
All shiny.
to offer. Very pleasing. So I guess if we are to kind of take what Peitha has to say about it, like at face value, these are all the Rift Hunters. Not just Arena, but this is that whole group of Rift Hunters that we were like looking at Gadarin Fields, and then they got pulled into that rift along with us. Like, so this is that whole group. Remember when we were like spying on them at the very beginning of Secrets of the Obscure? Like, that's what's going on here, right? All right, let's charge right forward into the next little story instance here. As I recall, this one's quite short. I think it's just dialogue.
Wayfinder, can you hear me?
Arena? I can hear you just fine.
Good. One of the volunteer Astral Ward cast an enchantment that better focuses our communication spells. Works in Nayos now. Peitha and I are at camp. I'm catching her up on developments. Things you probably need to hear too.
On my way.
All right, so right in. Right in. So here we go. Here we got some more of the Astral Ward. Right? They've now, whether these are new Astral Ward or whether this is, the group that I was previously discussing is maybe a little unclear at this point in time.
Rested, Wayfinder?
Best I can be. This camp is impressive given the circumstances. Did you source all this from Nayos?
Oh, it was much worse before you showed up. The Astral Ward have been sending in more supplies. Shelter, food. But all these nice supplies and roofs won't get us anywhere if Hator turns us into ground dull yak.
If she's anything like Saris, I'd rather not visualize the outcome.
Hator's dreams have been misplaced. But these are bones that we plucked. She's certainly holding a fortress to the north. If we can breach her gates, prompt her to change allegiance.
Unlikely, friend. Her champions hunt us on the field. One of you, or all of us, will die unless we put her down first.
I know. Wayfinder, this is why your presence became cardinal. Hator's arrival signals a change in Epoch's plan. I don't know what he's doing, but it feels imminent. They're sealing all paths to the castle.
This is where you come in.
You need me to hit something?
You got it. We've got everything in place to push against the fortress now, and we could use you on two fronts. Help the Astral Ward and Peitha's rebels protect the outskirts. Epoch's grunts are flagrant. And when we're ready, join the push. We need to crack open those gates so we can take the fight to the Mark herself.
Make my people trust you. And look scary doing it. If Hator is reporting to the king, I want him to shake.
Alright, so now we got something that we love, which is a green bar, right? Kind of inevitable. What's unfortunate with this release is that this green bar, genuinely, in terms of the time you dedicate to the story, can potentially compose like 1/3 of your total time spent doing this story release. Now there are other things you can do, of course. You can do the meta, 150 times if you want. If you're working on the ascended armor, or I mean legendary armor, you're going to do the meta a number of times. Um, there's another armor set associated with this release. It is, if I'm not mistaken, needed for the legendary armor. So like there you go, right? You're gonna grind this map, whether it's a good map or not. There are some interesting things on the map, and this is certainly one of them. We get like we get these fun Nayos sky scales that are quite cool. Genuinely don't know if this is the same model as the one that you unlock with that collection, because I never bothered to do it, and I don't know that I'm in a rush to do it. I don't know that I'll ever do it, but under any circumstances, fun things throughout the map. That doesn't necessarily make it a good map. If you asked me to say whether it's a good map or not, I would lean towards no, but we only have a portion of it right now, right? Which is part of the challenge that ArenaNet faces, and I think ultimately they're going to have to look at how they do that and question whether or not it's working, because there are some issues with this release. Feels very Gaiala Delve. A lot of people are not into that. A lot of people are unhappy with it. And it's kind of inevitable with the current way they're doing things. I think they need to look at the whole mini expansion thing and entertain the idea of one more map. So like 2 maps at the initial release, a 2-part map, and then a final map. Or 2 maps, 1 map, and then a 2-part final map. Because this map being in 3 pieces makes these follow-on DLCs to the initial release for the mini expansion feel like real trash thus far. At least this first one does not feel particularly good. All right, so we're going to insert a quick video break here, and we will launch into our second video because honestly, we're in a position we're like halfway through the entirety of this story. So when we come back, we're going to do the second half of this release, the second release in Secrets of the Obscure. We're going to fill our green bar here by completing events to strengthen Peitha's hold on the region. This asymmetric campaign that's actually fought like a conventional campaign. It's a shame that whoever contributed to the Icebrood Saga piece, way over here in Drizzlewood. Where's Drizzlewood at? Drizzlewood, where are you at? Ah, here we go. Like, it's a shame that the person who contributed to all this, because this was done great. A map that was released in multiple parts. Both parts were entertaining. In its entirety, it was good. The story was interesting. The story was had like plausibility and made sense. And 1 out of 3, kind of DLCs into Secrets of the Obscure, or the second of 4 releases into Secrets of the Obscure. Secrets of the Obscure does not necessarily feel that way. So real unfortunate, because the initial release for Secrets of the Obscure, the story felt really, really good. And this release really, like, starting to feel very Icebrood Saga-y, which Secrets of the Obscure always felt very Icebrood Saga-ish. But it's starting to look like they're going to follow the same pattern of Icebrood Saga, with a strong start and then a very mediocre second half. Hopefully that is incorrect. Hopefully they prove me wrong. All right, so when we come back, green bar, continuous story. Thank you. I will see you later.